Hey, hello again. I'm here at Hug Point State Recreation Area again on the Oregon coast. Beautiful area. Last night I walked south along the beach and painted a little haystack. This morning I'm walking north along the beach. It's just past low tide. The tide is way out. Lots of photographers out here getting the beautiful clear sky and morning light. This is one of the few beaches that has a waterfall running down directly into the ocean. Just gorgeous. It doesn't flow all year long, I don't think. Last summer, late summer when I was here, I don't remember this waterfall flowing more than just a trickle, and now it's got a nice volume to it. I may come back here this evening when the sunset light is putting some light on the scene and paint this. Definitely a beautiful, dramatic scene. Tide is way out, way further out than it was last night. Well, I changed my mind and came back south. I just wasn't seeing the composition or a lighting pattern that I liked north here this morning. I think this evening, coming back for that waterfall will be wonderful. I think I'll paint this same rock that I painted last night. I like the layers in the scene. I love the shape of the rock. The sun should be breaking through those clouds, getting up above those trees up there pretty soon, and throwing some light on this rock so I can watch that as it progresses. I also love those seastacks way off in the distance that are catching some golden morning light. I think I'll include those and maybe exaggerate the size a bit, make them a little bit bigger than what they would be if you just photographed the scene from this location. That's one beautiful thing about being an artist. You can move mountains, you can make sea stacks like that as big as you want. It doesn't always work, but you can at least play around. So I'm gonna get set up and paint this little scene. As always, thanks so much for joining me. If you like these videos, please like and subscribe. Quick rundown on my palette. Same colors I had out last night. Ivory black, titanium white, cerulean blue, ultramarine blue, burnt umber, burnt sienna, alizarin crimson, cad red, cad yellow, Windsor lemon, yellow ochre. And then I've got these colors left over from last night. It's from the same scene, but at sunset and facing south instead of facing north. So I think I can use some of those same colors. I'll just modify them. I'm going to try using Neo McGilp, which is a new medium to me from Gamblin. It's supposed to have a little slower drying time than Liquin. I've noticed that painting with Liquin in the warmer months, as it gets warmer, or if you're painting in the sun, it really tacks up fast and it can skin over fast, which which can be kind of annoying. So I'm going to try this Neo McGilt, see if it extends the life a little bit. I like a little bit of a fast drying time when I'm painting plein air because it makes handling the painting a little easier, especially on road trips, but I don't want it to dry that fast. And then I have Artist's Turpentine here. I'll use that for the initial sketch and for the initial turpentine wash. Going with a 9 by 12 inch Centurion oil primed linen panel today. Decent size, but not as big as I could go. I'm a little worried the tide's going to come in and I'm going to have to move, so I wanted to go with something that I could get done quickly in just an hour or two. Alright, I'm going to use a small bristle brush and sketch the scene first. So that rock is going to take up most of the space on the canvas. And then I just want to play with what I'm showing in the background. How much of the ocean, how much of that distant headland, and those sea stacks that are catching that golden light. There's a little bit of burnt umber and burnt sienna to sketch the scene. I'll place the base of the rock on this lower 1/3 line. And it slightly curves down and in. Add a little bit of burnt sienna and indicate the pool of water. I think I'll exaggerate the pool of water just a little bit, make it come out a little further on this side. There's a nice negative space here, a spit of sand. And then off the panel here. Curve out here. I'm going to come down a little bit further than in reality so I can invent a little bit more reflection in that water. It'll be fun. It's a gorgeous, subtle green here in reality in the shade. I don't know what it's going to do when the sun hits that rock. Nice notch in the rock, showing the sky through it. Put that right on this vertical 1/3 line. I can see I don't quite have the proportions right. It's too squat. I need to come up further. What I can also do is bring this line in. Throw that notch in there. A few nice sweeping lines. There's a rock stack behind this one. Well, there's this headland coming out with some boulders. Over this pool of water back here. Kind of sweeps up and off the panel. And there's another stack back here. I'm going to shrink it just a bit. the next big decision is where to put the horizon line. I don't want to put it right smack dab in the middle. That's kind of where I put this, so I'll place it slightly above this, slightly above the middle point. And I'll use my back scratcher, maul stick, to give me a nice flat line. That. It's distant headland. So easy to exaggerate these things. If I go too big, it makes this seem too small. So I want to keep this low, not quite as low as it is here in reality, but low. Then there's this closer bank of pines. I'll step back and just take a look at how this feels to me. I feel like everything fits. I also need to add the line of the surf. Now there's a beautiful string of water in the distance. Something like that. And then there's the ocean. I think I'll make this mostly ocean, just add the slightest bit of a line of sand. Maybe, we'll see. And then I want those sea stacks catching that golden light way off in the distance. I'm going to change the position. I'm going to move it to right about here. Another couple more smaller ones off. Okay, so when I think about NOTAN, I want to keep in mind that the darks should all be connected and they should be pretty readable. So this can all be one roughly dark shade. Including the reflection in the water. And this can also be dark. composition. Alright, now I'll use this big bristle brush. Make sure it's clean, because I just used it last night. And try to dilute the paint with turpentine. I'm going to use cerulean blue for the sky. And as it gets closer to the horizon, I'll add a little bit of alizarin crimson. Wipe out some of those clouds. Add just a touch of ultramarine blue toward the top of the sky for interest. Set up kind of a random pattern. Now last night when I left the beach, before I left the beach, I dripped a little bit of Gamsol onto my paints on my palette, including these mixed paints with liquid. And I put it in the freezer in our rental. And that seems to preserve the paints pretty well. They're still pretty wet, pretty loose. I'm going to set a bigger cloud right near the peak of this rock to bump up the interest, but I want this little notch to be blue, so I'm going to leave the blue sky over here. The overall tone of the water in the distance is bluey green. I'm adding cerulean blue, Windsor lemon, and a touch of ultramarine. Get a wash for the water. Ocean. Throw burnt sienna and a touch of yellow ochre in this foreground sand. Some shadow over here. Throw some ultramarine, burnt umber in for some shadow. I'll take a slightly smaller evergreen and knock out the lightest lights. Carve in that little strip of sand. Add a little bit of yellow ochre to mark this strip of sand. This rock face. Reestablish these seastacks. Take a little bit of alizarin crimson and carve in just a few waves. At this distance, they're no more than just hints. Rock is catching some beautiful light now. I don't want it creeping up and being tangent to touching this, so I'm going to keep it down here, which is not quite what I'm seeing here in reality. In reality, it does creep up there and touch that bit of water. It's got a nice blue cast from all the barnacles on it.
Compliments.
Hello, thank you.
Beautiful shading.
It's coming along, just getting started. It's light, just stay consistent. Alright, there's the turpentine wash in, and I wiped away the lightest lights. Got enough of a composition now to go on. So now I'll start to mix up the paints based on the scene. Try to use up those paints I mixed yesterday as well, where I can. You can see the shadow pattern is quickly changing as the sun is rising. Sprinkle just a little bit of Gamsol on my paints if I notice them skinning over, drying out. That will keep them wet a little longer. Just careful not to overspray. Don't want to pollute the environment. I'm also careful when I do the wash. I make sure the drips from my panel fall down on this lower palette and not onto the ground. This sky color from yesterday looks good. I just need to mix a little more. As I mix the colors, I can hold the knife up against the color I'm trying to match, catch some sun on it. You can see that's just about right for the top of the sky, maybe a little too vibrant, so I'll add just a touch of alizarin crimson and burnt sienna to gray it, and a little bit of white to lighten it. Doesn't take much at all, just a hint of other colors in blue shifts it quite a bit. Working from darker to lighter and from background to foreground. Got a bunch of colors mixed up here now. Got the sky, blue, more green, lighter toward the horizon, some cloud colors. The distant headland, those golden sea stacks way off in the distance. Deepest shadow of the closest big rock, and I'll just gray that down a little bit for the rock behind it. These are the trees on the middle ground behind the rocks, and then some sand colors. And I can just use these, dip into these as needed to shift the scene, shift the colors in the scene according to what I'm seeing in front of me. I'm going to try to remember the shadow pattern that I saw earlier and not react too much to the shadow pattern I'm seeing now. Start out with a nice clean, large evergreen flat. This is a number 7 from Rosemary. Paint nice and thin over that initial wash. That thinness helps to keep the sky pushed back. Lightest light on the cloud has just a hint of yellow, so I'm dipping into pure white and a little bit of Windsor lemon and mixing that into the color that makes for the lighter clouds. Correcting the drawing of the rock as I go and painting over the edge of the rock just a little bit. I can paint back into that later, achieve a nice soft edge. Painting over the top of these distant pine trees. The sun's coming from this direction, so the sky over here is going to be a little lighter than the sky over here. Thinking of linear perspective, the clouds are going to radiate from a vanishing point over here somewhere. So if there's any kind of line, the line of the cloud should reflect that vanishing point and become more horizontal as they come down to the surface. Also, bigger in appearance, closer, smaller in appearance, farther away. What's that?
Yeah, that's great. How long did it go?
2 hours.
Yeah. Very, very nice.
Well, the tide's coming in, so it's time for me to wrap it up. Here's the finished painting, at least as far as I'm going to get here. Light changed quite a bit, shadow moved, but I really like it. I like how it came out. I like the composition, I like that shadow pattern. That NOTAN practice I think is helping me. One thing I need to work on is I need to minimize the number of pools of paint that I mix before I start painting. I need to get to where I'm mixing maybe a few of the main colors and then tilting those more by adding more paint. So that'll be the next area of focus, is consciously trying to minimize the number of piles of paint. Well, as always, thanks so much for joining me. I really enjoyed this one. I hope you do too. If you like these videos, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Well, I just got packed up and the tide's come in, so it looks like I'm taking my shoes off and waiting. I need to get around this point to get to my truck. Woo, that is chilly. If you'd like to support the channel, please visit my website. I sell these little plein air pieces at a reasonable price because I consider them practice. It really makes me happy when someone likes my art enough that they want to hang it in their home. You can also sign up for my newsletter and stay up to date on my new work, shows, and get a discount on original art and prints.